Good afternoon once again, and welcome to Strong at Home. I'm Dr. Brenda Murphy. I'm an educational psychologist with Sail Away Learning and Academy. We are so glad you've joined us again today. If you were with us yesterday, you know what a treat you are in for today. This week, we are talking about minding our brain or minding your brain. And yesterday, as well as today, we have Dr. James Martin with us. Welcome, Dr. Martin, to our broadcast today. Yesterday, I learned that musicians write music with numbers, and Dr. Martin learns about that and brings a great depth of knowledge and experience. He is a Doctor of Audiology and is the Director of Audiological Communications at Widex. That's a company that works with audiology. I can see in his background there the little blanket from the Ohio State University,
yeah,
where he got his undergraduate degree in audiology and speech pathology. And you can see my UT.
yeah.
In the background, and so you come in with your master's in audiology from UT and your doctorate from Arizona School of Health Sciences. What an incredible background Dr. Martin brings. He is also a member of the American Academy of Audiology and was a winner of the American Speech and Hearing Association's Editors Award for published research in audiology neurophysiology. What a pleasure and a privilege it is to have us with you once again today, Dr. Martin. I have been so intrigued by your topic of our conversation today and yesterday is how music impacts our brain. That is so compelling. Let us continue our conversation. We stopped where we were talking about, because I asked about math yesterday,
Yes.
and you continued to say that actually musicians write music using numbers. So continue with where you were, where we left off yesterday, and we will continue with this conversation and a demonstration today.
Sure. Well, we were talking about how music is so captivating. Music is universal. It impacts people across the world, across the country. And the elements of music are critical in how they impact us. So for musicians, we write music with notes. We can also write music with numbers. And because music has to be done in time, it's not done in one isolated incident, and it occurs over time, we use things like different note qualities. I said a fast note or it's a slow note. Is it a short note? Is it a long note? And those notes have numbers. Like a quarter note would be 1/4 of a beat. A half note would be 2/4 of a beat added together. And so if you were to take a musical piece, and a lot of musicians use the Nashville number system, where we take the musical notation and turn it into numbers, and it looks like a math equation. If you looked at a piece of music that has been turned into the number system and I put it on the board, somebody would think it's a quadratic equation or some quantum physics solution because of the way it looks. But it would just be a piece of music. For a musician who knows the number system, they could take that and transpose it into musical notes and melodies in real time. So there's this, it's a different language. And
there's kind of this unifying quality about all things in creation, because at Sail Away, some of the things that we are pioneering in our field, which is literacy, and we talked about how music also impacts literacy, and we want to really get into that in our conversation today, that we have also discovered that there are some mathematical principles and activities that go on inside literacy. And I'll just kind of throw this out. It's not our conversation today, but we at Strong at Home may talk about it another day, that every single word is a mixed fraction. Every word in the English, we won't go further today. I promise everybody that we will talk more about that. But it's kind of like with words, typically most people would not know that. And that also impacts our brain. And I know very little about music. I know that you can have louder music and softer music, and I can see how that would impact our emotions. But we're talking about, and of course, emotions are rooted in the brain as well. But what are some of the properties that make music so unique for building the brain? I really want to know that. I want to get down to some brass tacks with this.
Okay, so you mentioned one, intensity. Intensity is a way that we categorize music, loud or soft. There's another way we categorize music in that is tension and release. We call it consonance and dissonance. So for consonance, it means that the notes are played far apart. So I just happen to have my piano beside me. So if I play the highest note on the piano and the lowest note, and I play them together, it can almost be a melody because they're so spread apart on the piano. That's what we call consonance. Dissonance is when we start bringing the notes closer together. So when I start moving my hands from right to left and bring them closer together until you get to two notes that are right next to each other, these two notes.
The way the kids bang on the piano. Exactly. It drives you crazy.
Exactly. That's what we call dissonance, those notes close together. And our brain, you don't have to be classically trained to understand these properties. It's part of Western music and the way our brains are tuned here in the US. But that dissonance, people who are, again, not trained can hear that. We don't like that dissonance. We want to go from this to... Right. It's more soothing. So music, we play on that. We make it consonance and dissonance, and you bring that tension in. That's one element that creates music. Scary movies are very dissonant. They just play all these notes.
And you don't like it.
And you don't like it. You know something's about to happen because of that tension that music creates in your body. So it's amazing, just those two elements alone can create dynamics and what we physically feel in our body.
So how is that changing our brain? How is that impacting us? Or how can we, speaking of, myself and all of the parents who are wanting to be strong at home, how can music impact the way they relate to their children or change that dynamic that impacts a situation with their brain at home? What are some practical things that we can think about and know about to change our brain? And I can speak for experience. There are times I would have loved to have changed my kids' brains. And, I'm glad they are who they are. But, oh, man, sometimes it was, I would have done anything to have been able to affect a change and help them grow. So what are some things that we can think about and do, however it is that you music experts and audiologists work in that field?
Well, the first thing I would say that is encourage everyone, I don't care what age you are, to engage in some musical activity, whether it's playing the drums, following a beat, playing a guitar. Playing a musical instrument that involves both the right and left hands engages our brain, our motor cortex, in ways that changes it. It used to be believed that, the brain doesn't change and we can't see that physical change. They've now shown that when you start doing things like music and those things that involve memory, our hippocampus, which is part of our brain that engages in memory. It's like a long-term photo album that your mom puts on the table of pictures of you from when you were a baby up to when you graduate, right? It stores all those memories, and the hippocampus actually can grow. We've seen that by stimulating these activities, we can see a change physically in our hippocampus. So listening to music that is higher in pitch is more alerting. So if you want if your kids are just dragging, put on something that's higher pitched, that's a faster tempo. Our bodies we call it match the tempo of what we're listening to. That's why people start tapping their foot or moving their head when they're listening to music. Our bodies naturally do that. So something that's higher pitched, faster tempo will engage us. If you want to relax someone or calm them down, playing something in a low frequency range, low pitch, at a slower tempo is more relaxing. So knowing those two things right there, just the tempo and the frequency, can help change the environment in a room just by what you play. So those are two elements that are really powerful.
So with all the tension that so many people are experiencing and have experienced since we've been in this crisis situation, and we keep hoping, and sometimes I think we may stabilize a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's still evolving. No one really knows where we are or where we're going for more than like the present moment. How could families utilize music, and what kind of music, or maybe even if you would suggest a couple of pieces that they could look up or maybe play for us on your piano, that could help change the dynamic of the learning environment? Because a lot of our families are teaching children at home. That's the only way they're going to learn, and they still are not comfortable in that situation. What is something that they may want to try in, bringing music into their learning?
Well, first of all, if you're using it as kind of a stimulus to help the brain open, then you want to use something without words. Mozart Baroque music is fantastic. We call it organized music. It is very structured in how it's pulled together, how it's played, and that structure translates to our brain, how our ears, auditory cortex, part of our ears, replicate that. So that structure is real important. You can't put on anything heavy metal. That doesn't help. It creates chaos. A lot of words is very distracting if you're trying to read or you're trying to engage in learning. Having it on at a very low intensity in the background is very good for learning. They even suggest listening to classical music, and there are studies that show that college students who listen to classical music before they go to take an exam score higher on their exams than those that do not.
Man, that's powerful data.
It is powerful. It is
Oh
powerful.
my goodness. So that when perhaps some of these children, young people that have such test anxiety, that maybe on the way to taking that test, they could listen to classical music that might help change the outcome. Is there been any research with different people who are taking like the bar exam or some of those really high level, tests that are such power tests?
I don't know that they've referenced particular tests, but they have. There's a lot of data. Oh my gosh, the world is opened up to the impact of music and what it does to us and how it impacts us, to the point where there's movies written about music for people who don't speak. Interestingly enough, there are people who, via stroke or something that they have happened to them, can't speak, and if you start playing music, all of a sudden these people who cannot speak will sing.
Interesting.
And it's an incredible way that music impacts us. And we talked earlier about the 7 areas of the brain that are impacted by music. So again, it's intriguing on so many different levels that it can be used as a very, very effective tool in a lot of different ways. So I use something called binary beats, which is where they match different tones. Because I travel extensively, sometimes I get to a hotel and I can't sleep. So I use music with like a soft rain background that uses tones that are close together, but not so dissonant that they create, angst. And for me, and you can fall asleep. They're using those musical tones to actually train your brain like morning coffee, that energize you, that help you focus. And it's just by changing the tones and the beats, they affect your alpha and your gamma and your beta brain waves so uniquely and that's really digging in deep. But it is a study of stuff that has really changed the way we see music.
So is this pretty current research, just having happened in the last, say, 8 to 10 years, or does it?
Yes, as we shared earlier, being able to watch the brain work, as you discussed earlier and explained what an MRI is watching the brain activity on a screen while people do different things. We can see what areas are engaged or turned on or off during those activities. We're able to do that now in ways that we never could before. And they've actually shown that when you're listening to music, music impacts your heart rate. It can impact your blood pressure. So people who have high blood pressure can listen to it, can cause them to relax your respiration, muscle tension, skin temperature. Music can cause you to cry. It can give you chills. You know, in a scary movie, we get chills and goosebumps, and it releases hormones in us. So there are a lot of different things that, again, music, and I'll share this too. One thing that I love about it is that when you're learning an instrument or a new piece, guitar or piano, music engages a protein, releases a protein in our head called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And it's a fancy word, but just know it's like miracle grow for your brain. When you start taxing your brain to learn a new note or play that passage or learn a new skill, this protein is released and it acts like miracle grow. It causes those neurons to fire together and work together in ways that we haven't seen. So again, a lot of science, but knowing the power behind it and what we're able to see has been really encouraging and incredible.
Wow, this is cutting edge research, cutting edge research. Oh, this is fascinating. Guess what? We have gone overtime.
Oh my gosh.
I know. This is such a fascinating topic. We're going to have to talk again some more, and maybe to find a few maybe activities that parents can do with their children at home during some of these tense times that we're going through. So all I can say is this is just phenomenal information, and I am so grateful for you being here with us today. It has been a blessing. So already I feel like that the Lord has blessed us, but I'm going to continue to pray those blessings upon us. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance to you and give you peace. Peace to you, Dr. Martin, and to all of you out there. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.